And today again, I'm joined by Robert. I joined him yesterday. I hope you were with us on the call. I think most of the people here see did either speak to me afterwards or were on the call yesterday. We had a couple of hours, and we're kind of going to touch on here a wee bit about what we talked about yesterday, but not an awful lot. We're going to concentrate on somebody that was introduced to everybody 3 weeks ago, I think it was, at the events in both the US and Germany, and that is Mr. Wavens, Robert.
Yes, it's always good to get a bit of a deeper dive, and it follows along with what we've been saying about repetition. It's not just introduce something, let people kind of to their own devices to have the confusion and the overwhelm. No, go back over it again, as well as show just how additionally powerful it can become. But we then get the level of understanding as to what the columns mean, what are we looking at, what's the color code, and repeat, 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 repeat. And then what it will do is it will start to sink in as to A, how this report works and what it's going to do for people and what it's going to do for their business. Because it does actually, which we're going to see today, it just lines out exactly what you've got to do. He's such a guide. At first he makes you cry, and then he says, "But here is the path, my friend. Here is the path to redemption." And I guess it's those things again coming back to the top of the Noel, where people who deal with adversity are the ones who are destined for success, because whenever we go and we have a look at it, right, like we talked about yesterday, sometimes you don't want to look at the danger numbers, the nasty numbers, but whenever you fight through that and you do take a little glimpse, maybe it's from behind the sofa, maybe it's behind your eyes, have a little glimpse, then it's exposed, right? And now you can do something about it, right? Which is absolutely great. And I know some people here might have caught us on yesterday's replay, or if you're catching us this stream on a replay, make sure and catch the other one on the replay, right? Put me and Noel on 1.5x speed and race through it. But I thought it was a great workshop, and it allowed us that little bit of time rather than just inside the 1 hour. No.
Yeah, I came off it yesterday with quite a nice buzz. I was dancing away. It was good actually to have the tunes take us out yesterday as well. I just
Hmm.
kept that energy going. And it was a long day yesterday because I had the day to myself. So I thought, what better way to spend my Sunday than doing work on my
Yeah,
own business? Feel, yeah, for everybody here. And I got an awful lot done yesterday. Actually, it was a really good day. And that's continued into today. We've been doing a lot of what we talked about on the workshop yesterday in terms of anybody that's in plus that we have still been working our way today on those backdated reports. And just I suppose before we get into the call, just to make it clear what is happening now, term 224 finished on Thursday. So if you are in all plus, I'm going to say, or an ultra member, then we will be downloading that term as normal for you. If you're in all plus, that will be the last thing that the last term that you have. You will be going to monthly reporting from here on in. And if you're neither of those two things, then it's just business as usual. You just keep downloading the term reports. So if you're in plus, you don't need to do any reporting anymore in terms of the downloads from your Seller Central. We'll do that, but you will not have a term report from here on in. It'll be monthly.
I think too, to get around that for people who are in All Plus, it's like monthly makes it easier for everybody involved, right? And it also lines up the things that we're doing, because inside All Plus, we're going to be reviewing against things, right? So term to term review is difficult, right? Because it's the shark teeth, up, down, creating the trend. Whenever we move to monthly, and we're going to be reporting on your business, and not just the actual reporting, but reviewing, actioning, all of those different things, it gives you a much easier month to month growth as well as quarter to quarter growth. It also makes it really simple because there's 3 months inside a quarter, there's 4 quarters inside a year. Ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom. Right. So now what we get is we get a little bit of our short term growth numbers, which is month to month. And then we get a little bit more median style, which is quarter to quarter. And then of course you get year to year, right? So you're going to start to come into this idea of progression, right? And I know for a fact, if you go to good old Seller Central app on your phone and you look at whatever figures you're looking at, and it says compared to last year, those numbers will be up. And we've been looking at some people's, and it's like up 4,000%, right? Well, what does that really tell us? Okay, if you've only really started 18 months ago, it doesn't tell us very, very much. But then whenever we look at month to month and we look at quarter to quarter, we're going to get to see, let's call it better data, right? More things that we can take action on. But then the following year, it's not going to be 4,000%, right? It might be 500%, it might be 300%, it might be 100%, it might be 50%, right? Then that starts to cascade into a more longer term approach. But we're then looking at the optimistic view, but it's also realistic, right? So we're dealing on real numbers. So it's great that we're going to be able to make these moves for people, do it on their behalf, and I think it's really solid. And I think that sort of it allows us beautifully to kind of segue into what we're talking about today, which is of course Wavens and looking at an actual Wavens report. Okay, don't panic, anybody. It's not yours. Okay, it's not yours. Okay, so there's you set away the tissues. It's all good. This is something completely different. And what it's going to show you is just how much the guide is there for you in terms of Wavens and what we're going to be able to do going month to month, country to country eventually. And we'll also let you see a little bit of what we're looking at. But no, maybe we want to fire up on screen the first of our Wavens reports, which is May for this account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not a
And
problem.
guys, I just want you to follow along with what we're doing here, okay? And potentially just take your Wavens report after this and go down and just apply exactly what we're doing here. So no, this is the May report.
I will make it bigger because no doubt it's not big enough. I've got
Yeah,
better with that, but I'm still working on
it's all good, dude. It's all good. So I have this May report open myself on another screen. And what we have, guys, inside of a Wavens report is column A is pretty clear. It's the SKUs, okay? And it's the SKUs that have done something inside the business for this month, right? So if you've got a brand new product or you've been out of stock of an item, it won't appear in Wavens because it's kind of useless to it, all right? And so you see all the SKUs. In the B column, what we have is how many units were sold inside of that month. Okay. Now that is a net figure, right? So if you have per se on the top line here 179, that might have been 180 orders and one refund. Okay. So that's a net units sold. Okay. And again, inside chat box, if anybody's got any questions as we go through here, just ask them. There's no silly questions, right? If something you don't understand, just let us know. Then what we've got is our SRP, right, which is the revenue of those sold units inside the month. Then we have the landed cost of the sold units inside the month, right? You're going to hear a repetition here. Then the referral value, okay? So what was the amount of referral that we paid for those 179 sales? And then the referral percentage of those sales. So you'll see it's all around the 15%, right? And this, Noel, I guess, is the first sort of protocol where we're kind of now being a little bit analytical, right?
it.
In terms of the referral percentage, right?
That's correct. That's the first thing that we would be looking at as we go across. And this is why we like Waving so much, is that starting on the left and working your way across, you will see piece by piece by piece of the gauntlet of a product, exactly what's maybe working well, not always something not working well, but what is in the right window, and then what's not. And as you say, referral is the first thing. We know when it comes in, it's actually got the landed cost. as I called it before the event. It's like coming in into Amazon with that ball and chain right its ankle. And then when the sale happens, the first thing that we have to look at is the referral. And we all know that that should be in and around that 15%. So we don't need
Yeah.
to think too hard about that one.
No, and it is one of the reasons why it's not color coded, right? Because what would we color code it? There's nothing. You can't call something fantastic or good. It's either okay or it's not, right? So, whenever it's not 15%, then there is something that you've got to do about that. And I wouldn't worry too much about the decimal points, right? Because you might have had some sort of liquidation in there that you've getting rid of, or you might have had some refunds, which can tweak the numbers ever so slightly. But what you're looking at is the main integer number there, which is 15 across the board, right? So there's absolutely nothing for us to do in terms of how we're looking at this. Guys, just let me know in the chat box with an okay if you don't have any questions up to date in terms of what is the SKUs, how do they get in there, what are the units sold, what is the SRP, what's the landed cost, what's the referral value, and what's the referral percentage, and what are we looking to see in terms of the referral percentage, and what is not okay that would make us form some action, right? Of course, if it's not okay, let us know with a question as to what is confusing about that so far, Noel.
Yep. And maybe if you joined us yesterday, you would have got a copy of yesterday's slides. Within those slides yesterday were the colors that are now standardized across all of the reporting that we're doing. Um, Sue has a question in there. She says, why are there some FN SKUs in the SKU column? I just go back
Yeah,
across.
good question there. So what can happen, which we're bringing something in, and you see down at the bottom here it says PIR import, right? And what we're doing inside the PIR is allowing people to give the ASIN, right, for the product. So that is an ASIN, and sometimes you even get an FN SKU. And what it does is it comes into the way that Amazon reports on different things. So whenever it liquidates a product or you've asked for it to be liquidated, unfortunately, it uses the FN SKU to report back on that. And then also there is another area where it uses the ASIN to report back on it, as opposed to the SKU. So we're trying to cross-reference a lot of this stuff for you. But whenever you kind of see those appearing, what I tend to do is I tend to remove them from the report, right? Because they're just muddying the water. Liquidations won't be something that will interfere with your report, and it certainly wouldn't interfere long term. So that gives us, hopefully, that answered the question. If it didn't, just re-ask a follow up.
And Ricardo has very kindly stuck the presentation into the chat box for everybody. If you didn't get a copy, I would suggest then making a copy of the doc that he has put in there. What I would say is that the wavens we're using here is one that we've been using in the background. So the color codes might actually not be 100% right, but if you're following along using the document, this will be changed and yours will be as per the document. We're still
Yeah,
working
and
on it.
also you'll have to make a copy of that link because it don't ask for editor access. It'll drive my phone then demented. What I would also say is if you have not seen yesterday's presentation, don't take a copy and then start going through it because it will mean nothing to you without the presentation. So do take your copy down, absolutely, and thanks for the link, Ricardo. But do go back to the presentation, right? Slides are great. Copies of slides are great after the event, not before the event. Okay. So moving on, guys, and what we're going to be going down through here is piece by piece. But FBA, the column of FBA is the value, right? The dollar value, the pound value, whatever it is that we have paid to Amazon for the sales or the fulfillment of those sales. That's in column G. And then in column H, that is the FBA percentage of the FBA value against the sales revenue as we discussed yesterday, right? So again, this is now, I mean, if referral, I guess, was kind of like the first one that we checked, but it's a very quick check. I regard FBA as kind of like, it really is the true first one, right? And we can see here, of course, I've got blue blocker glasses on, so I have to keep doing this with them to see which one is which. But what we've got inside here is we've got that one in lilac, right? We've got two in that cayenne color. We've got one in yellow, and we've got one in red. Okay, we've got one in red. Okay, so moving on, we then have advertising cost. So again, much like FBA, that is the first column is the value, and then we have the percentage. And again, I believe we've got two in lilac because it's zeroed. We have got one in yellow, and we've got two in red. Okay, then moving into storage. And again, this is a bit unusual, right? There is a reason behind it. There's quite a lot of storage in here. We wouldn't want to see these types of figures inside of storage. But the first column is the storage cost value again. And then the next one across in L is the percentage. So we've got two in cayenne there, and we've got one in orange, and then we've got two in dark red or that browny color. Okay. And then we have the master checker, right? The master checker, we have the 40, 30, 30, okay? And we have one in cayenne, one in yellow, one in orange, and two in a color which is no longer available, which is black, right? So those would be dark brown, right? And you can see how drastic they are, okay? This is the area, right? Now, I guess before we go into that, no, to date, up to where we are, so from FBA through advertising, through storage, and into 40/30, do we understand that? Just give me an okay that you're with me so far, you're with us so far, or whether you have any questions to date. So you can let us know. I know we'll have a little bit of we also have a little bit of a lag here on the
We do.
live, Noel.
We do. And just as I said before, if anybody was here yesterday, is using the color coordination or the color charts, storage and LMM, they would be different colors in yours, because as Robert says, the black no longer exists. And even in L4, that sort of browny color would now be a yellow, but bordering on to mediocre onto an orange. So just
So
take the figures
finish.
today.
Yeah. So finishing this out before we come back around again, what we have inside column N is the value of profit. Okay, the value of profit. And then in column O, we have a profit per unit. Okay, profit per unit. And profit per unit is really the only one that doesn't really have a color coding, or its color coding is extremely simple. Red is bad, blue is good. Okay, because there's no percentage level that we can kind of have in terms of profit per unit. A higher priced item is going to have higher profit, therefore it's not really possible. And to keep it simple, blue is good, red is bad. Now, coming back in, I don't think we've got any questions so far, which is absolutely brilliant.
Nope.
40, 30, 30 is what starts our deeper dive here. Okay, now we've got row 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 11. Right, guys, inside the chat box, which row should we go to first? Right, which row should we go to first? Just let me know. Because they're also at this point in time, and I do want people to start getting into this. In this report here, right, we are not going to even look at anything in row 6 or row 10, right? Because why would we? Why would we focus on something that's working pretty well? We've got a cayenne there and a yellow, right? But we've also got two in the black and one in orange, right? So we're
Everybody
not
must have.
even going to discuss anything that we would do with row 6 or 10 because we're not going to do anything though.
No, we're not, and we're waiting. There must be a serious lag today. Oh, oh, they're starting to come through now. So Colin says 4, says 11. Okay, Colin now says and 11 as well.
No, it's 1. What are we going to first? Not 4 and 11. This starts the confusion.
You hadn't finished your talking, so you hadn't, Colin. So you're going to go with 11, I think.
I think that's what it is. Well, you would be right to go with 11, right? It's the worst number, right? It's minus 203. Okay. That is where we're doing first. Okay. So the least number that you've got, all right, the biggest minus. Okay. So minus 203 beats minus 179. So we're going there first. Okay. So let's have a little look here and say, like, well, what is it that we would do in terms of this particular number, right? Well, we're looking down here and we're saying, right, where's the problem, right? Where is
Hmm.
the problem? Well, the problem exists in two areas, okay? Because it doesn't exist in FBA. It's minus 28%, and that is in blue. Sorry, I have to keep moving those glasses. But that's in blue, right? The other two are red and dark brown. Okay, so that's exactly where we're gonna go to. Now, whenever we look at this, advertising cost is a hell of a lot easier to deal with than a storage cost, right? Because we have moved in a certain amount of these units in here for other reasons to get out of 3PL, right? So that's what's caused that, right? But the advertising cost is something that we need to go in and trim down. Okay, we need to go and trim that down. If we then, that would be the only action on there. Go and
Hmm.
weed that campaign. There's something wrong, right? Then if we go over to row 4, what we've got is we've got a bit of a litany of problems here. Now that item is an exit strategy item. Okay, so there is a caveat there, but we've
Yeah.
got a storage issue, we've got an advertising issue, and we've got an FBA issue. Storage, like we said, is a lot harder to deal with. Advertising easier, go and weed the campaign. FBA percentage, we need to look at the pricing. Okay. And then if we took row 2 last, because the other two I don't even want to talk about, right? Minus 69.99%. The problem there is fully in advertising. Storage is not an issue. FBA percentage is not an issue. Advertising cost is the issue. Guys, can you understand what I'm saying there? And you agree with me? Or do you have any disagreements? Or did you not understand why we went to 11, then to 4, then to 2, and how we identified the main problem, right? So row 11 was advertising, right? That was the first protocol. Even though it had problems with storage, we would have to remove them from Amazon. That's going to cause us, it's difficult, right? So there's an easier mechanism or a first stage. On row number 4, right? Again, advertising and then sales price, okay? And then on row 2, advertising only, okay? Looks like we're getting a lot of understanding there, Noel.
Yes, they're all coming through now, and let us know that, and do you feel that that's easy for you to read, and you'd be comfortable now if we give you your wavings to come back? If we said, you tell us what's wrong, if there is anything wrong, maybe there isn't. But if we asked you, once you'd seen your wavings, if you could identify any issues, would you be confident that you could come back and say, yes, here's what it is?
And then the very final thing on this Wavens report for me, Noel, is unfortunately it's in P2, it's in cell P2. That's the
Yep.
overall Wavens score, which means that for every unit being sold here, there is a loss of $2.13. It's a 2.13 minus, crying emoji, lots of different things. But what it is we need to put something into action, right? Now, we're not minus 10, we're not minus 20. A little bit of action here is going to be able to turn that around. So I think, Noel, the best thing to do is this is in the past, of course. So some action was taken in the past. Let's go to June. Right?
The one I prepared earlier, or we prepared
Yeah,
earlier.
and a blue Peter there, Noel. I love it.
Yeah.
Now, we can see immediately certain things that have improved and some things haven't improved as much, right? So we need to do time. But if we scroll across to the Wavens number, right? That's a big change, guys, right? That is a big change. You can see there. It's now still a minus, but it's minus 0.08. Okay, so it's pretty much a zero, right? But if we look across here, and I think if I'm right in saying though that the rows are the two bad guys was row 4 and row 11 before,
It
and
was.
11 is now in row 8, right? So
Just checking that. Yep.
11 is now in row 8. And what we've kind of addressed is we've sort of addressed a little bit of its storage scenario, but it's actually the value's gone down, but the percentage has gone up, right? We took something drastic in terms of advertising because it's gone to 0, right? So we changed some dials around. We got some bits right, some bits wrong. FBA percentage has obviously now gone up. So we now know that we have, if you want to call it, we've changed the problem. The problem still exists, right? So advertising was cut. And again, in terms of row number 4 now in June, which was the other black one, right?
Okay. Yep.
We have weeded the campaign, so we're down into like a lilac color, or certainly a good color. But we still have some problems there existing, and we still have it's better on row 3 in terms of its advertising cost, but we've still got work to do. All right. So can everybody see that? Right. There's been movement, there's been betterment, but there's still more work to do. Right. We've allowed it time. We've done certain things. We've made certain areas better. Other areas have slightly gone off, but overall, we're better. Right. Let me know inside the comments that you can see that, you understand it, or if you've got any questions on it. And while we wait there, Noel, I think we should
Mhm.
move to July.
Yes, the last slide, and I can see the comments are coming through. We're getting some yeses now. So we started off with the Wavens was minus 2.13. Then it went in June to just minus 8 cents. And now we go to July. Okay.
Great. Now, we can see inside July immediately that we've got only one black cell, right? And it's now at 104%, so considerably lower than what it was. Now, we still have some storage stuff, but that is arcing down, okay? That's arcing down. Our advertising, right? Well, there's nothing in like immediate pain, although there's still work to do, excuse me, on that line 4, okay? And FBA percentages, still a little bit of work to do, but it's coming around. So we're getting, the whole report is getting lighter and lighter and lighter. Now, if we go overall, Noel, we went from minus 2.13 to minus 0.08. And now inside of July, we're at minus 29. Okay. So we can see that we still have that shark's tail, or sorry, shark's teeth, right? So it's up and down, okay, but it's moving in the right trajectory. And what we look at here is we're now looking and saying, well, what do we have to do, right? We see that these storage costs are coming down, down, down. So they're eventually going to run down into an area. We're happy with that as long as we keep selling through our units, okay? But the biggest area here that we can see is this area of the advertising cost on row number 4, okay? So if we look at this, well, what if we turned around and inside of this report, we were able to get this down by weeding it out down to say minus 425. Right, there we go. That is now bang on the buzzer for us. If we could keep that at 425 spend, our FBA percentage is at 25. Our advertising cost is 9.76. Our storage cost is 0.25. We're almost bang on 50%. We could still do a little bit more work to try and get closer to 40, but we turn wave-ins now into a positive, right? So immediately we're starting to move, right? And what if we turned around and we said, right, no, this item that's an exit inventory, what if we
Hmm.
got rid of that item? Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that item. I'm going to make the assumption that this item is eventually going to go, okay, out of stock and out of our wave-ins. Look what that does to the report.
A
And
nice
then,
positive.
yeah, and then whenever we get into an area where we're able to get this storage area resolved, right? We get our storage area resolved, and what we're doing is we're selling through on this product a little bit more aggressively in terms of price at the minute to get this storage bill down. But what if we could bring that down into, say, about $20, which is where it's projected to go inside about 3 months? So if we're looking at like a November report, this is what we're looking at. And of course, our sales price would then be up by about 30%, right? So let me just put that in. Our referral would then obviously go up by about 30%, and our FBA would go up by no, sorry, our FBA wouldn't because it's not related. So we bring this down. So now we're starting to get into the realms of this is starting to look where our action now needs to go. We know all the different pieces that we've got to do to bring this report right around. And looking at that now, you don't have any red, any dark brown, any orange, right? It's all yellow and below. Still a few little bits, that minor kind of work to do, but this makes a lot of sense here now.
That's is the whole point of Wavens. And that's why we're actually liking moving towards this month and quarterly reporting, especially for those people in All Plus, because you'll be able to see this. You'll be able to track the month by month change with what we're building with Wavens. We were working on it today. Um, and so you can see those steps that you take. We talk about the 12-week year and those actions in there. Well, for us, it's not complete the work that we're doing here, but we set ourselves certain goals of advertising, of storage costs. We're having to do a few bits and pieces with price to get that sell through rate a wee bit quicker. But in a normal situation where we didn't have those storage issues, which are historical, we're talking about the PTSD scenario. We're getting towards the end of that, as are a lot of people here in the group, and you'll be able then to get a Wavens where I like this Wavens. I like these yellows and blues. I don't want to see any other color on
Yeah, and now we have an action plan.
it.
Right there
Hmm.
and then, what we need to do is we need to get our price point back to where it should be on one item. We need to get our storage down on another item, and we need to get our advertising cost under control on another item. Right? That's three action plans, and we can set ourselves time to get it done. This isn't going to happen in 1 month, right? But could it happen in 3 months, 4 months? What are these things? So now what we're projecting out and looking at is an account that's doing, about 400 units, and we've got a 3.27 wave-in. So we're going to have a net profit inside the account. And now that it's at a level, all we got to do is start turning up the dials to start ramping through. There needs to be more. There needs to be more products inside this account. It's an account with three pretty traditional items and a newer style of item. It needs more fuel now to generate the revenue that's going to move this from a four-figure net profit, right? Not a net loss, a net profit
Mhm.
after everything paid, right? Right up into a five-figure where everybody wants to go. So the action plan here is really nice and simple, and we can then start looking to how close are we to that action plan, right? Have we made movements, right? Has one thing that we've tweaked hurt another thing, in which case we need to tweak something else until we get optimized, right? That word optimized, optimal, it doesn't just come overnight. You need to fiddle with the dials, right? Until you get it right. No.
You do. And if you look at the units, and if we go back to June, that -2. So every time we sold a unit, it was. Oh, can you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah, it just went through a wee bit of a blip.
I've lost one ear all of a
There you
sudden.
go.
It's gone. We've been talking that much today, but we've gone from where we were 3 months ago. We were losing every time. We were losing every couple of sale, and there's a couple of hundred sales in there, right through to what we're projecting now over the next month or two. Turning that barge around that we talked about yesterday,
Hmm.
slowly. It's not going to be turned. We're not going to turn the Evergreen or whatever it was in the Suez. It doesn't get unstuck overnight, but we turned it around, and we're going to keep working on it and optimizing, you say, until we get these figures to where they need to be.
Yeah, and two, it's like, this is one country, right? So we want to be able to have it so that you've got a drop down menu. You can see your wavings for May, June, July, or inside the quarter of July, August, September, now that we're seeing it. That's what we're going to be building, right? We've already put some work in today to build it. So you can just drop down the menu and then drop down the country. So you see it all in one area, right? And then we can also start having data that says, well, what was the change? What was the growth, right? How much did your FBA percentage improve? How much did your advertising cost improve? How much did your storage cost improve, or your 40-30-30 improve, right? So we get to see nice dashboards, right? And then, of course, what we were talking about yesterday, Noel, and we've done some work today on it, is being able to present the information. So whenever you're inside All Plus, being able to get that physical copy, right? And I know people like digital copies, but there's nothing quite like it. Digital copy is really a shortcut. Right? Whenever you get that physical copy in your hands and you can file that, getting a digital copy as well is okay for a quick guide, but whenever you get to see the physical thing, it tells you that you're in a real business, right? You're getting these business style reports with all of this action, as you say. That's what turns around the barge, no, and that's what we're doing, and it's what we're seeing, right? It's not just us talking; it's what we're seeing, and then being able to present this to you today live, so that you can actually see it happening on an account which is not yours, right? And then whenever you start to see it happening inside your own account, that's when the trust, the faith in all of these things that we're doing and the dials that we're turning, that is going to be absolutely awesome, because then the responsibility very much gets passed back onto you, right? It's like, you gotta bring the fuel, you gotta bring the fire. You're going to have to add into to revenue, and I know we're going to be talking about that over the coming weeks and months, which is going to be great. But thank you for inviting me today, Noel. It was an honor and a pleasure, as they say.
As I say, what else would you be doing on a wet Monday afternoon in the UK? We have plenty to do. That's the honest truth. We have a lot of work to do. We've only started really where we want to go with this. My left ear is now saying I have to charge its battery as well. So I have a call in 15 minutes, so I better get it some
Perfect
juice.
timing, Noel. Perfect timing as we end today's stream. But I'd also like to say to everybody who joined us today or has joined us on a replay, just thanks very much for checking in with us today or catching the replay and going through. Of course, do go back over it again. It's always good to do the calls a couple of times, just to bed it into the old grey matter. And sometimes it can prompt a question. Whenever it prompts the question, make sure you ask us and let us get it answered for you. And also, if you didn't catch yesterday's workshop, make sure to catch that probably before reviewing this call, and before reviewing any slides or anything like that. It just means that it's going to make sense as you put it together, sort of alphabetically or chronologically.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Robert, as always. And we are going to love yous and leave yous. And as we close, there's a lovely GIF. I'd love to be there, Ricardo. You have no idea.
Well, I think that's like the wave ins, isn't it? And we
It
with
is.
the sun shining through, which is absolutely perfect. Couldn't have picked a better gift for it.
I can see that on a t-shirt. You can spot me just over in the beach there with a pina colada.
I can. I can see you there on the deck chair.
That'll be next week. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you very soon on the next stream, probably later on this week. And we'll see you then. Cheerio.
Bye.